Cool. Well, welcome everyone to Takuminartuiit, Nunavimmiut, Making Art Through Film. My name is Glenn Gear. I'll be the moderator. I was also one of the facilitators for the series of workshops that we did. So I'll just quickly introduce folks. Again, my name is Glenn Gear. I'm originally from Corner Brook, Newfoundland. My dad is Inuk from Nunavimmiut, from a place called Etok Bay. My mom is a settler, Newfoundland settler with Irish and English background. I live and work here in Montreal, and I teach in Kingston. So I teach animation and do a lot of work with Indigenous and Inuit youth. And here we have Courtney, Lisi, Neevie, and Pasha. And I'm just going to pass the mic down, quickly introduce yourselves, and then I'll talk a little bit about our workshops, how we set them up, sort of the outcomes of those workshops, and then we're going to screen individual films. And the filmmakers will talk about their process and how they went about creating those. So yeah, quick introduction to everyone.
Good morning. My name is Courtney Papigatuk. I was born and raised in Montreal, but my mom's from Subway, and I have family in Qinnirajaattuq also. And I'm an artist, and this workshop really did a lot for me and helped me in a lot of ways.
Hi, I'm Lisi Etok. I was born and raised in Montreal. I am a multimedia artist. I have 3 published works, as well as short film animations that were presented in the New Zealand Film Festival Maoriland and recently in Norway. I'm really excited for a future in art, and this workshop has been an amazing resource for me as an independent artist, so I hope you guys enjoy.
Hi everyone, my name is Neevie Simigak. I am from Qinnirajaattuq. When I was born, my grandparents adopted me. They raised me in Inuit, so I'm fluent in Inuit. I speak, I read, and so I'm very fluent in Inuit. And this workshop has been it was really fun to work on it last year. I've had no experience in filmmaking and stop motion animation and all that. So I'll be talking about that later. And I also work at Nunavimmiut. And I moved to Montreal in 2017, so I've been here for 7 years, and I'll talk a bit more about that later, and I hope you guys enjoy all our films.
Hi everyone, my name is Pasha, April Partridge. I feel like I should say my whole name. I am from Kujuk. My mom's Inuk from Kujuk, and my dad is Kanyangihaga from Ganawagi. I started filmmaking in 2018 with Glenn. He was my mentor, and I really fell in love with it. And I didn't know it was going to be like what I walked into when I went into that room that very first time. And it's been something that's reoccurring. And to date, I've made 6 films, 2 of which were commissioned pieces. They're my 2 newest films. I can't share them. I don't own them. But it's pretty cool to know that people are now inviting me to create films for them because they like my artistic style. It's very natural materials and whatever I have available to me, and using my voice. So I'll talk more about it after.
Thanks so much, everyone. I guess over the years I've worked in different capacities and different workshops. Mostly, again, with Indigenous and Inuit youth and first-time filmmakers. Some of those have been elders as well. But I want to talk a little bit about, I guess, our most recent workshop. And this was at the Shift Center this past, I think we met briefly in December last year, and then really started getting going in January, February to April. Many of the participants are still working on their projects that we started back then. So that was one in a series of workshops that we did. And we're all very much indebted, I think, to Michelle Smith, who really helped organize a lot of those workshops and make the connections between CEGEPs and universities so that we could have the space to meet and also to find the equipment. And also to find the funding so that we could travel to places like Norway and present the films and talk about our whole process. So I think through much of what we do, in working through these workshops, there is a great deal of like self-determination. We have sort of narrative sovereignty. There's lots of skill sharing, and of course, care and community. Those workshops were set up in a way that was very non-hierarchical. We would get together every 2 weeks at the Shift Center recently, the Shift Center for Community Engagement here at Concordia. And it was a really fantastic social space with screening area, a room that we could break out equipment in, and also, I guess most importantly, a kitchen, so we could share food together. During this time, we were able to acquire equipment, and I think everyone had, if they didn't already have their camera and laptop, we were able to purchase those things. I was able to set things up with each filmmaker for an animation sort of general setup with the tripod and lights, the camera, the Dragon Frame stop motion animation software. So each person had a professional kit that they could work with. And so they had the proper tools in which to engage in their stories. And I think that was really important for us in creating a fun and active space that was really about sharing our skills, sharing our knowledge bases, and being there for one another and being good support for one another. So I guess in thinking about animation, but also thinking generally about filmmaking and storytelling, much of what we did was learning by observing. So we did a lot of demos together in the beginning, got familiar with the equipment, and a big part of that was making mistakes. You learn by doing, and I think that really comes out of an Inuit way of kind of engaging with material-based practice. And we wanted to demystify a lot of the technology and just play around and have fun and help one another. And so a big part of that, I think, is embracing mistakes and just experimenting, seeing what's possible. I mean, these are stories that that were really thinking about ourselves. They were very personal, and we wanted full control over producing them in our own voice. The diversity of voices that sort of came out of that. So that sort of gets back to this idea of narrative sovereignty and how important that is, I think, for Inuit filmmakers, for Indigenous filmmakers. The fact that we are telling our stories our way in our own language, whatever that is. And we're finding that out through a process of sharing and knowledge-based and peer-to-peer based kind of sharing. So it was a way of engaging with editing and the whole process of making animation, making films, making stories from the beginning, from the ground up. There was a lot of care and consideration, and I think love and respect, you know, in those spaces. And the fact that we were sharing food as well was a big part of that. It felt like a small little family unit, and we were able to dive into our various works. I'm including myself in this because as an artist, I was very inspired by these four young women who really delved into their own personal stories and their own storytelling methods throughout all of this. And it's really wonderful to be witness to that, but also to feel inspired by that. So even though, there's the mentor-mentee kind of relationship, I really felt like I was part of something bigger that was happening. This is one of the workshops. This is a little video. I love to record things through time lapse. This is, I think, when we were at Dawson College. So you'll see Michelle kind of helping out. I think Pasha was there, and Neevie and Lisi. I think Courtney and I worked up in Kangasuyuak, for a bit. But you can see sort of the process. We're in the studio together. Neevie's doing voiceover. Lisi's working like a mad person on her animation. And Pasha's here checking her phone. But it's a wonderful space. These spaces that we kind of occupy and take over are full of activity, but also food. We take breaks, and we're able to check in on one another. Again, there's a great deal of respect and kind of care for the process and care for one another. I think that's something that throughout all of the productions was really apparent to me, and I had a deep respect and love for, is that we care for one another even through conflict. And sometimes the stories that emerge out of this process change and shift direction. And so the workshops are set up in such a way that they're adaptable. They're adaptable to that, and also adaptable to individual agendas and individual availability. So not everyone could meet at every meeting, which was about once every 2 weeks, but we would always check in and sort of see where folks were at. So some of the practical skills, we did a lot of pre-visualization, storyboarding, mind mapping. Also, we learned a lot of stop motion animation basics, time lapse, filmmaking and editing, sort of practical skills, but those were sort of set up in a loose way so that people could really figure out their own editing style and feel comfortable with that and whatever working process. There are many ways to get to the story you want to tell. And so rather than having a top-down approach of going through all the practical skills, they were more emergent from everyone's process. And I think also during this time, especially thinking a year ago, it was really helping one another sort of re-socialize after COVID and to figure out, how do we be in space together? How do we share meaningful space with one another? And so again, that gets into sharing knowledge and information and not gatekeeping information. And I really love that about the group as a whole. And again, being open and adaptable to changing directions and sharing food and community and other stories, things that are going on in our lives, and feeling comfortable again, after coming out of this pandemic. So I think I'll just wrap it up there and just say that I think the group, did we call ourselves Sananik? Sananik, which is to make something. Yeah, to make of something, yeah. And I love that because we were all involved in different processes, different forms of making and creating. We would often bring in watercolor or, I think sewing in some cases, as well as filmmaking. We just brought in all the creative stuff, some of which is displayed right here on the table and you may buy. So I'll leave it there and I'll pass it over to Neevie. We'll watch your film and maybe you can set things up.
Hi, my name is Neevie Simigak. I am from Qinnirajaattuq in Nunavik, and I moved to Montreal in 2017 to study at Nunavik. And I grew up in Qinnirajaattuq for the first 18 years of my life, and it's really nice to see a lot of familiar faces here, and thank you so much for joining us to watch our short films, and it means a lot to us. It's a nice day to celebrate National Inuit Day. So it's a day that we are here to celebrate Inuit art and our culture, Inuktitut, our language. So I wanted to start off with that. So in 2017, when I graduated from Sodrit School, I moved here to study at Nunavimmiut. It's a one-year program for Inuit students, and the courses are accredited with John Abbott. And the students get to learn about our culture, the history of Nunavik, Inuktitut, and all that. That's where I went to study, and that's actually where I met some people when I went to Ottawa. So it's nice to see you both here, and that's where I met these two at NS Ottawa. So I just wanted to mention that quick. And so what I do as an artist is I make jewelry. I utilize sealskin and beads, and I take pride in my culture and I show it through my art. I've been doing that since 2017, and that's what I do. So after I was at Nunavik, I went to Dawson College. I studied in the Arts and Culture program, and I graduated under the program Arts, Literature, and Communication for 2 years. And I finished my studies in December 2020 during the pandemic. Like, imagine graduating through the screen. I imagined, I would have a big graduation on stage and talk to people, but it was on screen. We had to take a 10-second video to I'm Neevie, I graduated thing. That's how I graduated. So, and I also went to, after Dawson College, I actually went to Nunavik. I started working there as a secretary in January 2021. And in fall 2022, I went to Concordia University here, and I'm actually taking a break from university, so I'm back to my job at Nunavik as a secretary. So what I do at NS is I support Inuit students from Nunavik who came down here to study. So I support them thrive culturally and academically. And while I live here, I'm still connected to Qinnirajaattuq. I visit a few times a year, and it's always nice to be home. And sometimes when Qinnirajaattuq come down here, I see them in the city. So I do face homesickness a lot. And aside that, one last thing from the slide here. As a student, when I moved here, I did struggle a lot with homesickness, and academically, it was really hard being a student at Dawson, at Concordia, at NS, and I wouldn't have done it without support around me. There were people at Gatevik, Elisat Nilrinik, people at Nunavik Sivunitsavut, Dawson College, Concordia, my professors, my advisors, and social academic counselor. There's so many people that I credit who helped me get to where I am, because I wouldn't have done it alone. And the thing with coming to school in Montreal, we have to move here, go away from our family. And that's one of the things that's related to the project. From my personal life, that's more separate, but I guess it relates to the theme of this project. So I guess we can move on to the next slide. So I'm going to talk about my art medium. I'll be talking about the big work that I do and the filmmaking that I took part of in this project last year. What I do, as you can see here, the jewelry that I make here it's not traditional, it's contemporary. As you can see, I utilize sealskin, these cute seal earrings, for example. I made them last year, and they're all gorgeous. I don't know which one to show off. And these ones are beaded, and at the back they have sealskin. So I just wanted to add that, like, this is not traditional. It's more contemporary Inuit jewelry. And for the sealskin that we use, and traditionally, that's what we've used. Like, there, like, you know, historically, traditionally, people went hunting. They hunted seals and they ate the seal, and they used the sealskin, you know, to make like boaluks or gamidunak, adigik, and all that. And let's say you were to make sealskin boaluks, you may have like chunks of leftovers, like if you were to use this. And so we save some chunks and make jewelry off of that, and that's how sustainable we keep it. So this is a mix of traditional and also like contemporary. And the beaded jewelry, like, it's a practice that a lot of indigenous people use. So it's like a mixture of, you know, just making jewelry and all that. Hold on. Also, when I was a student at Concordia, actually at Dawson College in 2020, before the pandemic, I made this print just before the pandemic. And what I did was I had like 5 or 6, 8 courses left. And the way that I chose my courses, I wanted to save my art courses for last, because I wanted to finish my like English or humanity gym course. I wanted to get them out of the way and then save the best courses for last. And one of them was printmaking just before the pandemic. And it was my favorite course because I really got to like print make for the first time. And I actually took this from my apartment. I'm not selling it. And this one was my final project for integrating activity class. And this is like 40 hours worth of work. It's not completed. And we had to upload it online and so that my teacher could see it. It's been incompleted for 4 years now. Don't mind me. And yeah, that's the work that I did. And this one, my grandfather on my dad's side, his name is Mark Dikteluk. He's from Gangiksuyok. I mostly grew up in Gangiksuk. I'm not, like, family-wise, I'm not distant from my Dikteluk side. It's just they happen to be in another village, and my dad happens to be from there. And in 2018, I was visiting my grandparents when I was a student at NS, actually. And I was actually sitting on a table with him, like atatatsia, like imegdolu suti biogisuka. And he's like, Ona pitaliruk. So he just gave this to me in 2018, and this is called an inutsuk. So in 2019, when I wanted to open my small business, I was brainstorming ideas like, I want to open a small business on Instagram where I sew my jewelry, like beaded earrings and all that. And I was like looking at that, and like one of the words that came to mind was Imutsuapik, and that's the name of my small business. So the name is inspired by my grandfather's work. And Imutsuapik means little Inutsuk. And yeah, I just really like the name, so it's inspired by that. Yeah, I did launch my Instagram in 2019 to like showcase my works. I've been doing that for a while. And my short film. So last year, I briefly mentioned earlier, like I've had no experience in filmmaking at all. And one day, like Michelle, she wanted to meet up with me. We were sitting in a cafe at Concordia, and she asked me about this project. And she asked me, like, do you want to take part in this project? You know, we're looking for Inuit artists who want to make like short film. And of course I said yes. And so that was in early 2023 when she approached me. So we started working on this project together. And like, it's like on the spot for our first few workshops together as few artists. That's when I learned how to stop motion animate while showcasing my artwork. And it was, I wouldn't say it was challenging because I'd say I'm a fast learner. Like I'm very eager to learn. Like, if I'm interested in like when I want to make something, I'm so eager. I want to learn how to do it, and I'm pretty fast with learning. Even last week, I made hilauti, which is a traditional Inuit drum with Nunavimmiut. So, but that's from last week. I didn't bring it because like I don't want to carry too many things with me. But yeah, I think next slide. So what my short film is about is that it is dedicated to my grandparents, my apapik and my eguk. They're the ones that adopted me when I was born, and they speak in Inuit. My grandfather, that's Simigak, he passed away in 2019, and the lady in the purple, she's so cute. That's my apapik. She's 86 years old, and she's very sweet. She's cute, and I miss her. So my short film is dedicated to these cute elders of my cute grandparents. And so when I was young, actually when I was 9 years old, I started beading. Our Inuit teacher taught my class how to bead, and that's when I started like working on like making like cute little earrings or bracelets, and that's how I started off. And I took it more seriously with like bead working when I was a teenager. So whenever I would finish a piece, I would show my art, even just a drawing. My grandparents would always tell me like, you need to become a recognized artist, or you need to sell your work, because like I was young and naive, and I was like, I don't want to sell them, I just want to make them. Especially when they were, you need to become a recognized artist, like that's what they would often tell me. And I didn't think much of it because I was young. I didn't really care. I was just like, I'm just creating. But they did see my potential in me in becoming an artist. So my film is dedicated to them. Thank you.
Ei atiga Neevie Simigak kanguksimiu yovungam. Inuli gata kamiutunga ananatsiaganu atatatsiaganullo tigoge yosimavungam. Ananatsiama atinga Pasha Simigak. Atatatsiagi simayagalu atigi simayanga iitsiak Simigak. Apapiga Pasha nutagapi unigani ay papik lakayasimanginama apapik lasuge lakiyaga. Apapiga aigu hasimamma iyitsiamik aigu lasungula hisimayunga elitsisunga apapiganit. Pigu sanigani apapigani takuna hattasimavunga mirsutillugu atigini haklikayaanit pualunit kamituinnanillo ilakkanu annoqaagiyaoqajaqtuni mahaysiutiuqajaqtunillo mirsusitiuninga piugisuuqa apapimma. Aigora mahitsitiusimayu angunasuttiussuni ilagiingutsuta malisuungusimavugu ikayuqsuta aiguranik angayukka anikka asingillo ilavut aulasageersuta ukiumit nuluaqnageersutalu upiqngaamik ahigini niqlinageersutalu upiqngasakkut nainni ukiuhaqsuta ilinnaavimmi inuttitut ilinnaaditsigisimayavunnu sapangaliuyorstitauhattasimavugut taikangani sapangaliingoarea aleegayahasuunguvunga inusuttuuligama sapangaliakkani allanguartavinnikkanillu takutitsigama apapiganu aigugunullu nilleviuhattasimayunga imaak niuqusigiaalitinukkua imaallu ilatagiyauqeehaqqutit pisitiunigani hauyimagamit inusulluanginnasimagama apapimmalu ayuuqmalu uhausinginni sunuutsusuungusimangitunga tukisiluasimanginama sunangualiuqsitiunigani hauyimagiktilugik ilatagiyauhuyitillugillu angiligama kisiani tukisivaalusimayakka sulinningit.
Thank you so much, Neevie. Also, I just wanted to quickly mention when Neevie was doing her sound recording, I think you did 2 takes that whole day. Like, you nailed it, and you hadn't done voiceover before. And in Inuktitut, it was fantastic to work with you. I'm like, this person has done this on radio before. I'm sure of it. But yeah, it was really fun. All right, so next up is Courtney. Courtney, take it away.
Hello. As I mentioned before, I'm an artist, and that's what I've been my entire life. And I think meeting Michelle and Glenn and all these other people have given me this opportunity to really get myself out there and have my work seen and shown, finally. And now I'm making a living off of it, which is crazy in this economy. So, yeah. I was not very hopeful for college when I graduated high school. I was having a rough moment, but I really hated the idea of this colonial college system that we have. So I was like, and putting it off, and I finally went to John Abbott 2 years later, and it sucked. So Michelle really helped me to realize that I don't need traditional education. I don't need traditional Halunak education to get myself going, and that this is what I can do. And yeah, I went to Vujovic in May of 2023 last year, and I learned 2D animation with Simigak. He was a wonderful teacher, by the way. Super recommend him. Yeah, I went with my uncle and a few other people, and we learned 2D animation in a very short amount of time, and it was really intensive and really awesome. And then that turned into me going to Qinnirajaattuq with Glenn Gear and everyone else. Not them, but other people. And I learned stop motion animation, and that's when I really realized, I can do this. I can do this. I really liked doing stop motion from the get-go. I thought I've always wanted to do this since I was a child, and I finally do it, and I make stop motions now. Yay! This is my first one. It's called Lin. I made it in 40 hours while having COVID. We all caught COVID in Qinnirajaattuq, and it was still a lovely time. This is a film that's very close to me. It's my first film ever. It's dedicated to my Saunik Connie, who went missing in 2020 with her husband Tukka. And it's about my relationship with myself and my home, the Arctic, because I grew up in Montreal, isolated from my family, and I know Sully is really home, and that's where my family is. And it's really about my connection to Sully and to my Saunik and how her spirit lives on within me. Yeah. was a joy to make. It was like 400 something individual drawings. Ugh, it was awesome. Yeah, every color has a meaning, every single scene and every little morph has a meaning. The white dog turning into a bear is based off of my dog, who is also from Sudley. His name is Buddy, and yeah, we're both down here together, but both of our hearts are up north. Yeah, and so when it came to this workshop with Glenn and Michelle and these lovely ladies, we were given a stop motion animation kit of our own. Crazy, thank you, by the way, thank you. And we were told to make anything we want that's personal to us and our stories, or like what we really want to put out there and really want to make. And so this film is unfinished, and it also has no sound. I haven't gotten to editing that part yet. This one's a heavier topic. This one's about residential schools in, I think specifically Quebec, but also like the whole of Canada, the whole of North America, just the residential school experience, if you will. It was really hard to make also, because it just hurt thinking about the subject while drawing it and taking a photo, drawing it, taking a photo. It's a really long process, so you have to be in that headspace for a long time. And that's kind of why it's unfinished. I also have other projects going on. But yeah, this is that. It's only like a minute long. That's it so far. It should be finished in the next year. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here.
Thanks so much, Courtney. I'm going to hand it over now to Lisi. We're just going to move on down the line.
Hi. Like I said earlier, I'm just going to give you a little intro to my film. Basically, the theme is essentially on the neurodivergent experience, especially in childhood. And it's essentially to kind of show my experience as growing up as an autistic child, but also growing up as a mixed Inuk child who has neurodivergent tendencies. Yeah, please enjoy and definitely talk about it after. Oh, right. My film is called The Adventures of Auvi and Friends. Auvi Nunavimmiut means caterpillar, and it just follows the days of a little caterpillar acting as an autistic child. So please enjoy. The music was actually created by Galen Tipton, a trans feminine artist who creates music specifically for the use of stimming. She uses some very interesting sounds to create unique music, and she actually just released a new album that I would really recommend, so please do check her out. Actually, in the process of making this film, I was in the middle of getting my diagnosis for autism. And I will say it was a very traumatizing experience because the neurodivergent experience has very negative experiences and emotions tied to it. In fact, it was at one conference that someone asked me, "Oh, what is your film about?" And I say, "Oh, the autistic experience in childhood." And they told me, "That must be a really heavy film. I'm so sorry." So this film is essentially just to show that there is joy in the neurodivergent, like just existing in this sense. And I have gone undiagnosed my entire life. It was only about 2 years ago that someone even suggested that I try getting a diagnosis just for help in school. I'm at the end of my gap year. I am thriving, by the way. It's amazing. And I have really just realized that art as a career is something that just fits so well with me. I'm a multimedia artist, which means I want to be a jack of all trades, essentially. In the future, I want to try pottery, sculpture, kiln, like pottery with kilns. I want to try metalwork. I would love to try knitting, textile art. Right now, I'm crocheting. I've taken up beading. I'm very familiar with watercolor, and I have published works as well. I am no stranger to trying new things, and I'm really excited to keep trying these different animation forms as well. So, and the funniest thing is when I was getting my diagnosis, in the professional papers I was given, I was not diagnosed with autism because I had multiple facial expressions, including I could smile. I could maintain any relationship of any kind longer than 4 months, and I had goals for my future. They also diagnosed me by making me read a child's book with no words. So essentially, what is she doing? How do you brush your teeth without anything on it? And I was 18 when they did this test. It's meant for 4-year-olds. It was very disheartening to see this, so just this process was just me. Even as it's very joyful, it's a very colorful piece, it's honestly just kind of I don't care what you say. I have lived an autistic experience. I am autistic, and I clearly have goals for the future, and I'm really excited. Yeah. So yeah, do you have my presentation or no? No. Okay, well, I had a presentation that would just kind of show you my film poster that I submitted to Maoriland, and essentially just all my main themes. So thank you so much for coming. It was very nice to see you. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, thanks so much, Lisi. I don't want to rush things, but we do want to get through to everyone and maybe open it up for a few questions later on. So Pasha, would you like to introduce yourself? And I think you have 2 films.
Does this work? Okay, cool. Yeah, I have 2 films, but are we short on time?
I think we can do it, yeah.
Okay, I'll talk short about them. Yeah, maybe I could talk about it a little bit first. We can show the first one, the story of Pasha. This is the first film that I ever made. It was made in 2018 with the first People's Post-Secondary Storytelling Exchange, which was spearheaded by Michelle Smith. It was about talking about education, like our educational experience. And when Michelle approached me, she asked me like if I wanted to make a film, and I was really excited about the prospect. I didn't know what I was walking into. There were so many people in the room that looked like they knew what they were doing, and the films that literally came out of that were stunning. Like some of them went to so many film festivals, and I think Vicky, you made one, yeah. So yeah, there was a lot of Indigenous people in the space, and it was my first time in a space where like our stories were kind of, I don't know, nurtured. Like it felt very important, and it was the center of the space. It was like a very decolonized environment, and yeah, throughout this process, I went with Michelle kind of basically all over Montreal, all over, we went to Winnipeg, we went to Norway, we went to New Zealand. New Zealand was unrelated, it was a different film. But like, I've been so many places with Michelle since 2016, I think is when we met. Yeah, so I actually made a film. One of the films I made with this group was actually about Michelle. I'm not going to show it. It's a private experience. Yeah, but it was just really highlighting all the amazing opportunities that she has. Like all these people here, all these young, beautiful women, they were also introduced to filmmaking like I was from Michelle, and we were also included into different art forms like soapstone carving, and Michelle was a part of a pilot project where, like Courtney mentioned, that there was media workshops up north. There was a 2D animation. Glenn did a stop motion animation. I didn't do those workshops. Michelle kept encouraging me to go, but I didn't want to leave my son. But I did go to the soapstone carving workshop, and I think it was a game changer for me, because now I do soapstone carving, and it's literally all I do when I'm at home. So like all the little things that we've been introduced to through our relationship to Michelle is just astonishing. But anyway, I'm kind of sidetracked talking about other films. The story of Pasha is about my grandma. Her name is Pasha Partridge, and I literally have her whole name, Pasha Partridge. Funnily enough, so does my sister. And a bunch of cousins. So if you ever look on Facebook and you look up Pasha Partridge, there's like 5 of us, maybe 6, I don't know, I lost count. Yeah, so I really wanted to emphasize the importance of Inuit naming culture, because when I was growing up, it was my mom would introduce me to an aunt or a cousin, and they'd always associate me to my name, not my relationship to them. They wouldn't be like, oh, here's your cousin. It was like, here's your daughter. I'm like, when did I get children? But it was because of their relationship to my grandma. So I grew up with a bunch of grandchildren. I grew up with a bunch of little children, people that call me mom, and I always thought that was really interesting, because it always throws me away when someone's like, ananange. I'm like, I'm not your mom, but okay. I guess I am your mom, actually, since I do carry the spirit of my grandmother. So I really wanted to, I don't mention it in the film. I don't talk about the background of it. I just kind of talk about my name. Over the years while filmmaking, I learned how to tell my stories a little bit more concise and not all over the place. When I see this first film, I giggle every time I hear it. I say Pasha, I don't know how many times, but there's at one point where I say it like 5 times in like the same sentence, and I'm just there like cringing every time I hear it. But you learn from your first film versus the films you make today, like the more recent things, you learn from those first ones. And I think repeating myself is something that I do often, and that's what I learned from this film. But anyway, I'll show it.
I've always had a strong connection to my name. I was named after my grandma. When I was younger, I was always really curious about where my name came from. My mom told me that I was named after my grandmother, Pasha. So when I got older, I learned that my name is actually shared by many people. All of the oldest children in every branch of our family holds the name Pasha. So for every aunt and uncle I have, their oldest child is named Pasha. I also have a sister with the name Pasha, which I always found really interesting. I also share my name with my little brother. When my little brother was born, my mom decided to name him in accordance to my name. My name is Pasha, April, Lucina, Namayuk, Christina, Partridge. My little brother's name, Lucasi, Susie, Charles, Ituk, Michelle, Partridge. All of his names go together with my name. So the name Pasha and Lucasi, they were our grandparents. The name is special and unique, and there's a strong story to it. Have you ever wondered where your name comes from?
I don't know how my little brother feels about me always sharing his name. His last name is not actually Partridge anymore. He changed it to his adoptive dad's name. So yeah, I don't know how he feels about me always calling him Partridge in this film, because I say Partridge and I know it's not his last name. But yeah, anyway, I really enjoyed the filmmaking process. I didn't know what I was doing, so a lot of the scenes are like with post-it notes. They were really done like on a whim, just kind of seeing what it looks like under the camera. I incorporated a bunch of my art, and I didn't know. I kind of just showed up with like, I think, a giant box of like stuff, and I just put everything under the camera to see what it looked like. And I had so much footage from this particular workshop. I don't remember how long of an audio recording, but there was a lot more I was trying to include in there. But we had like 2 weeks to make the film, and the editing part was really short. So it went really fast. I think I finished it like a few minutes before we did the screening. So it was like an excitable time. But at the end of it all, it ended up going to a bunch of film festivals, and I wasn't expecting anything to happen of it. What no one told me when I started this is that every time your film gets played at a film festival, you get money. I didn't know this, so very randomly I'd get an e-transfer, and I'm like, what's this? And then the person who posted my films was like, oh, it's for your film, and I'm like, oh. So yeah, that was really cool. And yeah, the next one is about art. It's about my artistic, I don't know, I'm an artist, so I wanted to include my art in it. The first scene you see here is a pointillism drawing from Jennifer Lepage. She's from my community, and I used to babysit for her, and I used to think her drawings were really, really cool. So when she was like posting them on Facebook, I was like, I need one. I got one, and it's always been on my wall, and I look at it every day. It's a Sedna pointillism, so like her eyes, it kind of reminds me of a, what's that painting? Mona Lisa, the Mona Lisa painting? Because like her eyes follow you everywhere. And I always have her in the middle of my living room, and I at one point was mindful of where she was, because like I don't want her looking over my bedroom where I'm doing, things. So I wanted to include different artists. The first sound you hear is from Kelly Fraser. It's her Sedna song. Felt fitting for the Sedna picture. And yeah, I had a really hard time when Kelly passed away, because she was the only Inuit artist that I would listen to at the time, and like I was like heavy into her music. So I really wanted to like find some way to honor her, remember her awesomeness. And so I put a little short piece in there. I asked for permission from the people that take care of her music, and they said I could use it. So yeah, I was really excited to get that. Like it was my first time asking for permission for like using someone else's work, so I was really excited about that. And yeah, it was the idea of this was to be a collaborative film. So I got a bunch of Indigenous artists' opinion. Like they gave me opinions on like my text, like what I was going to read, the intonation I was using. Yeah, I just got a bunch of different tips because we went to New Zealand 2023, I think. Yeah, we went to New Zealand for another film unrelated to this one. It was another film with another group, similar group. Michelle and Glenn were there. Anyway, during this trip, I was working on this film, and so I kept asking, like, can you see it? Can you give me opinions? And I included them at the end because I felt like their contribution was really important, and the idea was to kind of have like this collaborative, like, idea, because Glenn and I did a workshop in New Zealand where we did like this collaborative workshop, and the idea, like the collaborative thing, was really in my head at that time. So I just like the idea of working with other people and yeah, making connections, and art is a good place to make strong connections. So yeah, I'll show the film now.
Inugiami upigusukunga. Takusuka sunalima piuyualuit. I'm proud to be Inuk. Things I see, everything I see, they're beautiful. I grew up immersed in art, Inuit art, indigenous art. I feel lucky to be an artist. It was my calling. My spirits knew what to do. My mom used to sew beautiful pieces of clothing for our family. I would watch her as a young girl and just observe. I didn't know I was learning. It's just the norm. Many parents bead, many parents hunt, many parents carve, many parents sing, many parents draw. We all in some way have been immersed in art. We all learned from our parents about art. They learned from their parents about art. It's a collective art piece. What materials did you bring for our piece?
I don't know if you noticed, but I like to ask a question at the end of every film. It kind of gets the audience involved in the film, so it's not just me talking, because I like to talk. I learned throughout my process that one of my favorite things about filmmaking is my audio process, because I have an idea for a film, and the first thing I do is, like, I have an idea, and then I write down what I want to write, like my key points that I want to include in my audio, and then last time I got ChatGPT to help me, but I do write my own script that I try to follow, but I try to make it casual in my own voice so that while I'm reading it, I don't look like I'm reading, like I don't sound like I'm reading. You might be able to tell at some points, but I try my best. Like, the story of Pasha was definitely on the whim. Like, I was just talking to the audio equipment. But this one, I did have a script, and it was interesting because I learned about the breaths that you take. They're so important because, like, if I breathe too soon or too late, then you can hear it in my voice, and I had to keep recording over and over again. And I just really like the difficultness of the process. So I start with the audio, and then my images come after, depending on what I said and the audio. And I try to make it, like, match and, like, all that. Like, the editing part is weird for me because during this one, the Takuminartuiit, I messed up the first take, and I had to, like, redo the whole thing, but thankfully I remembered where everything was. But what was really nice about this mistake is the smile of the woman in the emotic, that wasn't there before. So, like, that little smile that you get every time I see that, I'm like, that's a good take. Like, it adds, like, warmness to my heart, and I really like that. Even though there was a mistake in the process of editing, it ended up being better than the first time. So yeah, I could keep going talking about filmmaking. I really enjoy it. I really enjoyed this group. I love that we got film equipment. I give workshops now. here and there, like small mini workshops where I introduce people to stop motion animation using natural materials. And this has been really fun.
This makes me very happy, by the way. The fact that you're now teaching other folks stop motion animation. This was my plan all along.
The last time I did a workshop, there was someone watching me set up, and they were like, I was trying to explain to them what I was doing. I think they thought I was trying to get them to help me. They're like, no, you're the pro, And I was like, oh, thank you. So yeah, I feel like I've gone a long way since I started filmmaking. Yeah, it was in New Zealand that I learned how to say, like, feel confident in the phrase, I am a filmmaker. But your first film, once you do it, you're a filmmaker. Like, feel confident in that, you know? So, yeah, thank you for coming.
Thank you so much, Pasha. I know we're almost at 10:30. We probably have time for one question. But is there anything, I mean, these folks are so articulate and are so invested in their material-based processes. And I think they've explained their relationship to film and to making and creating quite well individually. But is there any burning questions that anyone has that you want to ask the collective or individually?
I just wanted to know if any of you are going to continue with this experimental film process, and if you're ever going to get into documentary, or if there's screenwriting. You have a lot of artistic potential, and I'm very proud. It's very good. And I'd like to know if you guys have any future projects that you want to do that's going to be longer.
I definitely have plans in plant illustration for maybe a science-based piece on any plants in Nunavik, because they're underdocumented, in my opinion, in like professional fields and just generally like gorgeous nature books. So that's something I definitely want to try out in the future. And yeah. I know you, definitely.
I have 8 million ideas all at once, all the time. So sometimes I'm in a funk with art. Right now I'm making paintings to sell, because we need money. And yeah, films, I'm gonna make a lot of them.
To answer to your question, I'm definitely interested to maybe showcase my jewelry again while also storytelling. And like Glenn said earlier, like when I was doing the audio recording, it kind of came out like I'm a storyteller, and that's one thing I never really actually considered. But after my first short film, it makes me think, oh, I should do more of this. Considering that we were giving the equipment, I just have to invest my time into it. Like I do this work without the camera. So setting up the camera takes a lot of time. The editing takes a lot of time. It's something that I definitely want to do to share on social media. Yeah.
I don't really have like direct plans or anything, but since I started doing commission pieces, people have been approaching me, asking me if I can make them films. So I might randomly just start making films for people, but that's not the goal. The goal is to make films for myself. It's hard for me to like sit down and make time to do things because I'm a mom, I work, I have my Pasha's projects, and I go to vending events, speaking events, workshops. It's hard to like juggle and determine like where I want to spend my time. Filmmaking is definitely one I do want to keep doing, so I'll probably do something a little bit bigger. I have an idea to make one about my little brother who's in foster care, so I do want to take time to do that one. Like I want to put a lot of love and care into that one. I met him only when he was 10 years old, so it's like a very big moment for me. It happened last year, so it's like still fresh, and I'm still learning who he is, so I want to make sure the relationship is taken care of before I start making a film about it. But yeah, I do have ideas for bigger projects, but I'm not directly thinking about them right now.
Okay, folks, thanks so much for attending. If you have any other questions, maybe you can stay behind and just ask the individual participants. But yeah, this has been a real joy. It's been so lovely to see the works again and to hear about your process. So thank you to all the panelists.